I loved this race, and there were so many things going on. So with that, I have family that still lives in Pennsylvania. So my mother lives up there, as well as like I have some uncles and a great uncle and aunt. Like I have a bunch of people that still live up there. So my boyfriend Brian and I turned it into a family visit and race weekend and city exploration opportunity. And so it was a very dynamic and very tiring weekend. So if I appear any type of tired today, that would be why. I'm recording this on Tuesday, and I'm whooped. Hello, welcome to you. Welcome to the Richmond Wellness Studio. I am Aubrey Eicher, joining you today with a post-race kind of recap. Now, for the past 4 or 5 months, I have been training for the Pittsburgh Marathon. This is one of my shirts that I got for it. It says Runner of Steel, so it's a little play on words, the Steel City. I'm excited about getting some rest tonight. So my body has been depleted, and you know, running marathons is a very interesting thing. I started back in 2012. This was the same year that I got the vision that I was going to be a type of health coach and fitness trainer, that kind of a thing. And I said, man, like, wow, the people that are getting involved with this it's changing the other areas of their lives. You know, like it's making a difference. Like these success principles for training are akin or are translatable into other areas of life. These success principles that are specific to training are translatable to other areas of life, and that fascinated me. That was absolutely what got me hooked on wanting to be a coach and a trainer, because I saw the difference that it was making in people's lives, and I said, oh my gosh, that's really cool. Like that's something that I can buy into. That right there is a career that I can do. At the time I was married, I was working in another business with my ex-husband, like that I wasn't passionate about, that I was growing into something else, and I was just like, you know, this is something that I want to do. So that's why I love coaching. That's why I love doing what I'm doing. And marathon training has a very close place in my heart because of that. So, you know, you spend, I don't know, 4 or 5, maybe 6, maybe 7 months if you're conservative, training for one day. And it's that one day that it's where all of that work comes together. And it's amazing. A very, very cool thing. So the Pittsburgh Marathon was really cool. From what I heard, there were about 40,000 participants. That's cool. That's a lot of people, by the way. A lot of people that you have to organize into one space, which this race was very well organized. I was very impressed with how it was organized and how smoothly everything had went between the expo to the event itself. The course itself, like yes, it was hilly. It's Pittsburgh. Hello. Pittsburgh sits in the mountains and it's gorgeous. Like that was the really cool thing about it, is that like, yeah, it was hilly and I prepared for that. I usually kind of shy away from the more hilly courses and say, it's not for me. You guys can have the mountains. I'll do that another day. Well, this was that other day for me. The views were amazing, you know, to see the city from all of these different perspectives and angles, and the people that came out, the crowd support was phenomenal. Like to have people in the different neighborhoods to feel the difference between a place like Shadyside, you know, up against a place like Homewood, the crowd support that was different, you know, in each individual like neighborhood. It was really, really cool. So I highly recommend it. If you are a runner and you like things like that, they have a half marathon and they have a full marathon, and they've got all kinds of other races, but I highly recommend it. So I took away a couple of lessons that I took some time last night and I wrote down and that I wanted to share with you guys, okay? So number one is, and you probably saw my message last week on this, is about stress. Stress affects our bodies in a plethora of ways, okay? This was a stressful weekend for me because I was visiting mom, okay? And I mentioned before, I take care of my mother. I'm her guardian. I'm an only child. I take care of her. She's in a nursing facility. And that was a stressful thing for me. And then just the whole travel experience in itself had its own load of stress with it as well. Now, that wreaked havoc on my gastrointestinal tract, my GI. That reared its beautiful head halfway through the marathon at like mile 13.3. I found a porta potty and I stayed in it for about 11 minutes. So, stress has a tremendous effect on our bodies. And whenever we're trying to perform in some capacity, particularly like using this marathon as an example, it's not something that we can predict necessarily, and it's not something that we can get away from. There's no way to get away from that, to circumvent it, to get around it. It is just, we have to take the stress that we have in our lives and translate it into something, transform it into something that's more positive and more constructive, okay? That was a major tax on my energy. So I had to recognize that, okay, so my energy level is a little bit lower than it would be had I been at 100%, on race day, and go with that. I had to use that wisdom to embrace it and just say, okay, here I am. I'm going to give it the best I've got with everything that I have. Okay, I believe it's a Franklin, I think it's an FDR quote. Franklin D. Roosevelt is, do what you can with what you have where you are. Okay, so on any given day, we have limited energy. We have limited resources in terms of physical, mental, emotional capacity. So we should be mindful of that and even kind on ourselves to say, all right, you know what? I'm going to do the very best that I can with what I've got today. Okay. So a lot of times, like, you'll bump up against that wall and say, oh, hi, whew, it's a lot of energy right here. When you're doing something like that, whenever you're saying, I want to stretch to the maximum of my capacity, and that's okay, and that's good, and that's healthy, okay? But recognize, like, don't be so hard on yourself. I think this accounts for a lot of people, and I've been there myself, where I'm saying, man, I wish I could have done better. I wish I could have done X, Y, Z. And the reality was, I gave the best with what I had that day. And if you have that understanding as well, if you give the best with what you have on a given day, then you can't be, or shouldn't be, logically shouldn't be, so difficult, so hard on yourself as to like, oh, you could have done better. Well, actually, maybe you couldn't have. Give the best with what you've got today. Number 2 was always have a next goal. All right, I was going into this race with the idea of, okay, depending on how this goes, on how my body feels with it, on how my emotions, my psyche, everything feels afterwards, that's gonna make a difference on what my next goals are. And I had kind of like a option A, option B, option C. Option A was like, all right, let me train for another one, and I can travel and I can go to it. It's in September and it's pretty flat, and I want to see what I can do. I really want to like let loose and like see how fast that I can get, because I know that I have more in me even than what I put out on this marathon, because my training pattern was different than it has been in the past. It was me balancing life out, and that's important too. A lot of us who have like high performing jobs or our own businesses, if we're looking to perform in some type of athletic capacity, we might have to take into consideration the other capacities that we have to perform in on a regular basis. So if you have a high performance job, or if you have your own business, it can be immensely more stressful to add on to it and say, I want to perform at this level with, let's say other people do like things like CrossFit, or in this case, marathons or some other type of endurance sports, triathlons, ultra marathons, anything like that, Spartan races, those have become very, very popular. We have to be mindful of our bandwidth, of where can we perform and where do we really want to, like, where's our priority? Where do we want to put our time and our energy and all of that kind of stuff? Do we, if you're married or if you're in a relationship, like, do you have a supportive partner for that kind of a thing? That says, hey babe, I'm going to spend like probably about like 20 to 40 hours a week training. That's what these types of things require and ask of you, whenever you commit to it. And a lot of times you need a support system, because you can't do it all unless you have a very simple life, like a job and a cat, you know, or something like that. I've used that example before. So anyway, I say all that to say, have a next goal. Always have a next goal in anything in life. Like if you hit one goal, already be thinking about the next one, because here's the thing, you can hit a goal and then you can get what they call like post-goal blues. You know, in my world of marathon training, it's like post-race blues. Like you just feel kind of like, oh, it's over, it's done, now what, kind of thing. Well, I was already like, it's summertime. Like I love training in the summertime. I love the sweat, I love the sun, I love all of it. The humidity, I'll take it, whatever. I'll take it way before I'll take the snow and the cold and the freezing and the wind chill and all that kind of stuff. But always have a next goal. Know what you want to achieve next. Like look at it as if this, then that. You know, if something happens, then I'll do this. If something else happens, then I'll do that. If I feel like it, then I'll do this. Like, hey, you can change your mind at any time. You know, I thought that I was pretty certain that I was going to train for the Erie Marathon this September. But you know what? I got back from Pittsburgh and I said, that travel is very difficult and my work is very important to me. So I'm just going to train for the Richmond Marathon and keep it really simple this fall, because I don't want to have to take that out. Like, to be honest with you, I would rather spend my travel money on something like a cruise where I'm seriously just like laid back, relaxing, like please feed me grapes and give me a strawberry daiquiri, whatever, than, you know, spending more money, spending a lot of time traveling like 8 hours. It's an 8-hour drive from Richmond to Erie. Then paying for the hotel room, paying for the race, paying for all of that kind of stuff. I would rather split my funds elsewise, you know, so like figure out what is important to you priority-wise. Okay, and always have a next goal. All right, so the third one that I wrote down was to give all that you have today, and I mentioned that before. Just whatever you've got in you today, it's going to be different every other day. You know, you don't know how much energy that you might wake up with today. You might be tired today for some reason. You might even have gotten like really great sleep last night, but for some reason you're tired. Like just give the best with what you've got in your stores right now. Don't worry about yesterday. Don't worry about tomorrow. Do this right here in the moment, okay? Stay here, because anything else is, number one, stressful. Number two, you can't control it, you can't change it, you can't do anything about it. So why are we living in the past or in the future when we can only do what is right now, right here in front of us, okay? Next one is find what you're thankful for. I loved this race because I loved seeing the different views of Pittsburgh. Western Pennsylvania, I'm from there, okay? I'm not from Pittsburgh proper, but about 45 minutes southeast of it. It's a little town outside of Pittsburgh. And I kind of had a negative view of it just because, like, I'm from there, and to be honest with you, I had, like, what I would call quite humble beginnings. Like, I lived with my mom in a trailer park. The place itself, I mean, we drove around it. I was showing this to Brian over the weekend. We drove around it, you know, and it's quite run down. And that perspective kind of weighed on me. Well, doing the Pittsburgh Marathon really gave me a different perspective of the entire city and the entire experience. Like, it was just really cool to see, like, oh wow, look at all the different perspectives and look at all the things that there are to do here. Look at all the different foods. Like, we don't have Polish food in Richmond. Like, if we do, somebody let me know, because I have not found it yet. You know, but it was cool, and I was very thankful for that different experience to give me a different expectation. To give me a different expectation, to really just open my eyes to something different. And I was open to that. That's the thing too, is, you know, I wasn't set in my thought processes and ways of saying like, oh, that area of the world or that corner of the state is like so. Like, no, it's actually pretty damn cool. So that was awesome. So be thankful. Find things specifically to be thankful for. You may have heard about gratitude journaling before, okay? When you wake up in the morning, what are 5 things that you can be thankful for today, right this moment? Let me ask you that right now. What are 5 things that you can be thankful for right now? Anything. I have the most, you know, comfortable shoes on my feet. I'm not wearing any shoes right now. I'm giving my feet a chance to breathe. Gosh, I had my favorite cup of tea this morning. right? Those are little things, but when you don't have them anymore, we realize how much of an impact that they have had on us, right? We get into like these kind of routines where we're just kind of comfortable and all that kind of stuff. Well, what is it that you're thankful for? Okay. Last point that I wanted to share with you is to be conservative. And as a coach, this is a big thing for me. Be conservative in your approach and in your training, whatever it is, okay? If you want to be more physically active, more physically fit, if you want to eat healthier, I would highly, highly advise you to be conservative in your approach to change. Okay, if it's change in terms of eating differently, incorporating more healthy foods into your diet. Unless you're one of those people who you know yourself and you say, you know what, unless I overhaul everything at once, it's not gonna stick with me. If that's you, I want you to do what's good for you, okay? But if you're not sure, or if you know, like, yeah, like actually I always really miss my foods whenever I absolutely go out into left field and do like a juice fast or something like that, which is not sustainable, by the way. I want you to find things, a process that is sustainable for you. And please, if I can help you with this, reach out to me and let me know. This is my specialty. My specialty is to find out exactly where you want to go and talk with you about where you are now and figure out how we can bridge that gap and take you there. Okay? So, you know, find a very conservative approach. Like, I'm going to be training for the ritual. Actually, it looks like Brian and I both are going to be training for the Richmond Marathon again this year. And we're looking at I have created a plan to increase our speed, to increase our time. So to take time off of our finish pace, to take time off of our finish time. And, you know, that requires a certain amount of pushing, but then also a certain amount of drawing back and recovering. Both are very important in life, in any area of life, physically, mentally, emotionally, work, relationships, all of the above. It is an ebb and flow. There's never really a hum. We're always moving. It's always a balance, okay? So keep these things in mind, all right? So like I said, stress affects our bodies and our physical capabilities on a daily basis. Do your best with what you've got in your stores today, okay? Always have an next goal in mind, okay? So whenever you hit one, have another one that's lined up so that you keep moving and you don't go backwards and you keep looking forward and have that spirit and energy of hope, okay? And then finally, find what you're thankful for, all right? I have a couple other points. I will likely share them in a future video, so stay tuned. If you liked this, here's the thing. If you liked this, if you gleaned something from it, if it spoke to you in some way, would you kindly like it, love it, comment, share, anything? The more people that see these messages, the more that it helps more people. And I believe that there's usually some type of a message in it for everybody. So if you would kindly share it, like it, love it, let me know your feedback. I am here to converse with you, not just to talk at you. So let me know what you're thinking, and I'm gonna go and rest. I hope you have a beautiful day. I will talk with you soon.